Daniel, can I ask you something? I've always been confused by money. Not how it works technically. I understand earning, saving, investing, and spending. What confuses me is people. Why do some people make a lot of money but never seem financially secure? And why do others earn average incomes yet somehow build comfortable lives? Sometimes it feels as if money follows rules nobody talks about.
That's because it does. Most people spend years learning how to earn money. Very few spend time learning how to think about money. And that difference changes everything.
But isn't money mostly math? Income minus expenses, savings plus investments. It sounds pretty straightforward.
That's what many people believe. But if money were only math, most people wouldn't struggle financially. The formulas are simple. Spend less than you earn. Save consistently. Invest patiently. Avoid unnecessary debt. Almost everyone knows these rules, yet millions ignore them. Why? Because money is rarely a math problem. It's usually a behavior problem.
Behavior?
Yes. Think about this. Most people know eating vegetables is healthier than eating fast food every day. Yet obesity exists. Most people know exercise is beneficial, yet many don't exercise. Knowledge alone doesn't determine behavior. Money works the same way.
So financial success isn't really about knowing more?
Knowledge helps, but emotional control matters far more. And that's the first lesson nobody teaches.
I still find that hard to believe. Money feels logical. Numbers don't have emotions.
Numbers don't, people do. And people make financial decisions. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone receives an unexpected bonus of $10,000. What would be the smartest financial decision?
Save most of it. Invest it. Use it to improve long-term security.
Exactly. But what happens in reality? Many people immediately start thinking about rewards, a vacation, a new phone, a designer bag, a luxury watch, a better car.
Because they feel they've earned it.
And perhaps they have. But notice something. The decision isn't being driven by logic. It's being driven by emotion, the desire to celebrate, the desire to feel successful, the desire to enjoy an immediate reward.
So, spending often satisfies emotional needs?
Almost always. People rarely buy products. They buy feelings, safety, status, comfort, belonging, confidence, hope.
That sounds surprisingly true.
Think about expensive clothing. Most people don't buy luxury brands because the fabric is dramatically better. They buy what the brand makes them feel. The same applies to houses, cars, vacations, and countless other purchases.
So, money becomes emotional long before it becomes financial.
Exactly. And once you understand that, you start seeing financial mistakes differently. Most bad financial decisions are emotional decisions disguised as logical ones.
That's a little uncomfortable, because I can already think of purchases I regret.
We all can. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is awareness. Because awareness creates choice, and choice creates freedom.
There's something else I've wondered about. Why do some incredibly intelligent people struggle financially? Shouldn't intelligence naturally lead to wealth?
That's one of society's biggest misunderstandings. Schools teach us that intelligence leads to success. Life is more complicated.
How so?
Because intelligence and financial behavior are different skills. School rewards correct answers. Money rewards patience. School rewards speed. Money rewards endurance. School rewards certainty. Money often rewards comfort with uncertainty.
That's an interesting contrast.
Imagine two people. The first has exceptional intelligence. The second is average. The intelligent person constantly searches for the perfect investment, the perfect opportunity, the perfect strategy. They read endlessly, analyze endlessly, research endlessly, yet they rarely take action.
Analysis paralysis.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the average person quietly invests a small amount every month, not because they understand everything, but because they remain consistent. 30 years later, who wins?
Probably the consistent person.
Most of the time, yes. Because wealth rarely comes from brilliance. It often comes from repetition.
That's almost disappointing.
Only because we've been taught to admire dramatic success. We celebrate overnight millionaires, startup founders, market geniuses, viral success stories. But most wealth is built quietly, slowly, almost invisibly.
Like planting a tree.
Exactly. Nobody stands beside a tree every day noticing growth. Yet after 20 years, the result becomes undeniable. Money behaves similarly.
Then why are people attracted to shortcuts?
Because human beings are wired for immediate rewards. Our ancestors evolved in environments where immediate survival mattered. Modern wealth requires almost the opposite mindset. Sacrifice today, benefit later. Delay gratification, remain patient, trust the process. These behaviors don't feel natural. They must be learned.
What about income? Surely earning more solves most financial problems.
Only if spending doesn't rise at the same speed. And that's where many people get trapped.
You're talking about lifestyle inflation.
Exactly. One of the most dangerous financial habits in modern society. Imagine someone earning $50,000 a year. Eventually, they receive a raise and begin earning $70,000. What should happen?
Their savings should increase.
Ideally, but often something else happens. They move into a bigger apartment, upgrade their car, eat at more expensive restaurants, take better vacations, buy newer gadgets, increase subscriptions. Soon, the extra income disappears.
Without improving financial security.
Precisely. And here's the dangerous part. Every upgrade quickly becomes normal. The bigger house no longer feels special. The luxury car no longer feels exciting. The expensive vacation becomes expected. Humans adapt remarkably fast.
So happiness rises temporarily, then returns to normal.
Exactly. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. We adapt to improvement so quickly that what once felt luxurious eventually feels ordinary, and then we seek the next upgrade.
That sounds exhausting.
It is, because many people spend their entire lives chasing moving targets. Each milestone promises satisfaction, yet satisfaction keeps moving further away.
Almost like running on a treadmill.
A perfect description. Running harder without truly getting closer. And financially, that treadmill can last decades.
Then how do people escape?
By asking a powerful question. Not, what can I afford, but, what do I actually need? Most people never ask it, because society constantly encourages more spending, more upgrades, more consumption. Yet wealth often grows from learning when enough is enough.
That sounds simple, but probably difficult.
Many of life's most important lessons are exactly that. Simple, but difficult. And money is no exception.
So if Chapter 1 was that money is emotional, and Chapter 2 was that consistency beats intelligence, then Chapter 3 is that earning more doesn't automatically make you wealthier.
Exactly. Because wealth isn't built by increasing income alone. It's built by controlling what happens after the income arrives. And that's where most people lose the game without realizing it.
I have a feeling we're only getting started.
We are. Because the next lesson may be the most dangerous one of all. The habit of comparing ourselves to other people. And that habit quietly destroys more financial happiness than almost anything else.
Daniel, can I be honest? Sometimes I don't even know how much money I actually need. Whenever I feel like I'm making progress, I see someone doing better. A bigger house, a better car, a nicer vacation, and suddenly my own life feels smaller.
That's one of the most powerful psychological traps in the world. And it's older than money itself. Comparison.
But isn't comparison natural? How else do we know whether we're doing well?
That's exactly the problem. For most of human history, people compared themselves to a small tribe, perhaps 50 people, maybe 100. Today, you compare yourself to millions, every day.
Through social media.
Exactly. 100 years ago, the richest person most people knew lived in the same town. Today, you can compare yourself to celebrities, billionaires, athletes, entrepreneurs, influencers, and strangers you've never met. It's an impossible game, because no matter how much you have, someone always has more.
So comparison destroys satisfaction?
Very often. Imagine two people. The first earns $100,000. Everyone around him earns $60,000. He feels successful. The second earns $200,000. Everyone around her earns $500,000. She feels behind. Who feels richer?
Probably the first person, even though they earn less.
Exactly. Because wealth is partly objective, but financial happiness is largely relative.
That's unsettling.
It should be. Because many people spend their lives chasing a finish line that keeps moving. The moment they reach one level, they discover another level above it, and another, and another.
So there is no final destination.
Not if your goal is to have more than everyone else, because there will always be someone richer. Always.
Then what's the alternative?
A different question. Instead of asking, how much do they have, ask, what kind of life do I actually want? Those are very different questions.
Most people probably never stop to think about that.
Because society constantly tells us what success should look like. The house, the car, the title, the salary, the lifestyle. Very few people build their own definition. They simply inherit someone else's.
And spend decades chasing it.
Exactly. Sometimes people climb a ladder for 20 years, only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall.
Can I ask another question? Why do some wealthy people seem ordinary, and some people who look wealthy actually aren't? I've always found that confusing.
Because real wealth is often invisible. And that's one of the hardest truths for people to accept.
What do you mean?
Let's imagine two neighbors. One drives a luxury car, wears expensive watches, lives in a huge house, posts glamorous photos online. The other drives a 10-year-old car, lives below their means, rarely talks about money. Which one is wealthier?
The first one sounds wealthier.
Maybe, or maybe not. The first person may owe the bank enormous amounts of money. The second person may quietly own investments worth millions. You can't see someone's balance sheet. You only see their spending.
That's true. We see consumption, not wealth.
Exactly. The irony is that the things people use to look rich often prevent them from becoming rich.
Because the money is being spent.
Right. Wealth isn't the car. Wealth is the financial asset that wasn't spent on the car. Wealth is hidden. It's the investment account, the savings, the ownership, the freedom, the options.
So wealth is what you don't see.
Precisely. Imagine a giant oak tree. What do people admire? The trunk, the branches, the leaves. What they don't see is the root system underneath. And yet the roots support everything. Financially speaking, wealth is the root system. Invisible, silent, powerful.
That changes the way I think about success.
Good, because many people spend years trying to look rich. Very few spend years trying to become rich. Those are completely different goals.
You keep mentioning patience. Why is it so important?
Because almost everything valuable takes longer than people expect. Building a career, building trust, building relationships, building health, building wealth, all require time.
Yet, people seem increasingly impatient.
Because modern technology trains us to expect immediate results, instant delivery, instant entertainment, instant communication, instant gratification. But wealth doesn't operate on that timeline.
How does wealth operate?
Slowly, painfully slowly at first. That's why many people quit.
Can you explain?
Imagine planting a seed. For weeks, nothing appears to happen. The soil looks exactly the same. No visible progress, no reward, no evidence. Yet underneath the surface, growth is happening. Roots are forming. Foundations are developing. The process is invisible.
Just like investing.
Exactly. People invest for 2 years, 3 years, sometimes even 5 years, and they become disappointed. Because the results don't look dramatic. What they fail to understand is that compounding often appears insignificant before it becomes extraordinary.
So patience isn't passive.
Not at all. Patience is active faith. It's continuing to do the right thing even when results remain invisible. And that's much harder than people realize.
Because humans want proof.
Exactly. We want immediate evidence, immediate rewards, immediate feedback. But some of life's greatest rewards arrive late, very late.
Including wealth.
Especially wealth.
Everyone talks about compound interest, but honestly, it sounds boring.
Most powerful things look boring at first. Gravity is boring, yet it shapes the universe. Compounding is similar. It quietly changes everything.
Explain it differently, not as a financial formula.
Let's forget money for a moment. Imagine reading 10 pages every day. Does 10 pages matter? Not really. One day won't change your life. But after a year, thousands of pages, several books, new knowledge, new perspectives, a different mind. That's compounding.
Small actions repeated over time.
Exactly. Now imagine saving a small amount every month. 1 month feels insignificant. 1 year feels modest. But decades? The result becomes astonishing.
The challenge is waiting long enough.
That's always the challenge. Most people dramatically overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year, and dramatically underestimate what they can achieve in 20.
That applies to more than money.
Everything. Health, relationships, skills, business, knowledge, character. Every meaningful area of life compounds.
So every small decision matters.
More than people think. Every day you're either benefiting from compounding or fighting against it. A small positive habit repeated thousands of times becomes transformation. A small negative habit repeated thousands of times becomes regret.
That's a powerful thought.
Here's an even more powerful one. Most people don't fail because of one catastrophic mistake. They fail because of hundreds of tiny decisions that seemed unimportant at the time. Likewise, most successful people don't win because of one brilliant decision. They win because of thousands of ordinary decisions repeated consistently.
So the future isn't created by dramatic moments.
Usually not. It's created by today's habits, repeated long enough.
And that's why patience matters.
Exactly. Because compounding rewards those who stay. Most people want extraordinary outcomes. Very few are willing to endure ordinary days long enough to achieve them.
You know what's interesting? When we started this conversation, I thought money was about numbers. Now it feels like money is really about human nature.
That's because it is. Money simply magnifies who we already are. Our fears, our desires, our habits, our values, our patience, or our impatience.
And I suspect the next lessons become even more personal.
They do. Because next we're going to talk about something that quietly shapes financial destiny more than almost anything else. Impulse. The decisions people make in moments instead of years. And the hidden cost of those decisions.
Daniel, earlier you mentioned impulse. Why does it matter so much? Everyone makes impulsive decisions sometimes.
Because most financial disasters don't begin with a single catastrophic mistake. They begin with small decisions that feel harmless.
Such as?
An unnecessary purchase, a credit card balance left unpaid, a subscription you forgot to cancel, a loan taken because you wanted something now rather than later. Individually, each decision seems insignificant. Together, they can shape an entire future.
So the problem isn't one large decision. It's hundreds of small ones.
Exactly. Imagine a ship crossing an ocean. If the captain changes course by just 1 degree, the ship still appears to move in the same direction. But months later, it arrives in a completely different place. Human lives work the same way. Tiny decisions accumulate. Tiny habits accumulate. Tiny impulses accumulate.
And because the effects are delayed, people don't notice.
That's precisely why impulsive behavior is dangerous. The reward arrives immediately. The cost arrives later.
That sounds like a terrible bargain.
Most destructive behaviors operate that way. The pleasure is immediate. The consequence is delayed.
And wealth requires the opposite.
Exactly. The effort comes first. The reward comes later. That's why wealth building feels unnatural. It asks people to sacrifice certainty today for possibility tomorrow.
How can someone become less impulsive?
By creating distance between emotion and action. When you want to buy something, wait. Not forever, just wait. 24 hours, a week, sometimes a month. Time is often the enemy of impulse.
Because emotions cool down.
Exactly. And once emotion fades, clarity returns. Many purchases survive excitement. Very few survive reflection.
That's a sentence worth remembering.
Here's another. Every purchase costs more than money. It costs time.
What do you mean?
Imagine something cost $1,000. Most people think it costs $1,000. But if it took 20 hours of work to earn that money, then what you're really spending is 20 hours of your life. Once you see purchases through the lens of time, your perspective changes.
Because time is finite.
Exactly. Money can return. Time never does.
Can I ask something controversial? What do wealthy people actually buy? Not what social media shows. What truly matters to them?
That's a fascinating question. Because the answer changes as people become wiser. When people first acquire money, they often buy visible things. Cars, clothes, status symbols, experiences, luxury. But over time, many discover something surprising. The most valuable purchases are often invisible.
Invisible?
Yes, they buy time.
Time?
Think about it. A successful business owner might hire help, not because they can't do the work, but because their time is more valuable elsewhere. A wealthy person may pay for convenience, not because they are lazy, but because they understand the value of hours.
So money becomes a tool for reclaiming time.
Exactly. But it goes even deeper. The wisest people don't just buy time, they buy freedom.
Freedom from what?
Freedom from desperation. Freedom from panic. Freedom from toxic environments. Freedom from being trapped. Imagine two employees. One has no savings. The other has enough savings to live comfortably for several years. Who has more freedom?
The second person, without question.
Exactly. The second person can leave a bad job, take a risk, start a business, spend time with family, recover from setbacks. Money provides options, and options create freedom.
That's very different from the way wealth is usually portrayed.
Because society often mistakes luxury for wealth. But luxury is consumption. Freedom is wealth. Those are not the same thing.
I think that's one of the most important things you've said.
Many people spend decades chasing symbols of success. Few spend time understanding the purpose of success.
And the purpose isn't necessarily buying more things.
No, the ultimate purpose is gaining control over your own life.
If freedom is the goal, then perhaps money itself isn't the destination.
Exactly. Money is simply a tool. A powerful one, but still a tool.
Then why do so many people treat it like the final goal?
Because money is measurable. It's easy to count. Freedom isn't. Peace isn't. Contentment isn't. Purpose isn't. So people chase what can be measured, even when what truly matters cannot.
That's profound.
Imagine someone with $50 million, yet they work constantly, feel trapped, never see their family, can't sleep, live under endless pressure. Are they truly wealthy?
Not in the way that matters.
Exactly. Now imagine someone with far less money, but enough. Enough to pay their bills, enough to support their family, enough to choose how they spend their days, enough to sleep peacefully. Who is wealthier?
The second person.
Perhaps, because wealth is ultimately about control. Control over your attention, control over your choices, control over your time, control over your life.
So the real goal isn't becoming rich, it's becoming free.
Exactly. And that's a lesson many people learn far too late.
Daniel, if you could send one message to your younger self, what would it be?
Only one?
Just one.
Then it would sound something like this. Dear Daniel, I know you're worried. I know you think you need to figure everything out immediately. I know you compare yourself to people who seem further ahead. I know you feel behind. But listen carefully. You are not behind. Life is not a race, and wealth is not a competition. The people you envy today are fighting battles you cannot see. The people you admire are more uncertain than they appear, and the future you fear is not as frightening as your imagination suggests. Be patient. The greatest rewards in life arrive slowly. Trust matters slowly. Wisdom arrives slowly. Relationships deepen slowly. Wealth grows slowly. Character develops slowly. Do not confuse slow progress with failure. They are not the same thing. Remember this: most of life will not be decided by extraordinary moments. It will be decided by ordinary days. The mornings nobody notices, the habits nobody applauds, the decisions nobody celebrates. Those small moments will quietly shape everything. Spend less time trying to impress strangers. Spend more time building a life that genuinely makes you happy. Because one day you will realize something important. The house was never the goal. The car was never the goal. The status was never the goal. The money was never the goal. The goal was freedom. The goal was peace. The goal was having enough. Enough to live according to your values. Enough to help people you love. Enough to wake up without fear. Enough to choose your own path. And when that day arrives, you will finally understand something most people never do. True wealth is not having everything. True wealth is needing less.
That's beautiful and strangely comforting.
Because deep down, most people already know it's true. They've just forgotten.
So after everything we've discussed, money isn't really about money.
No, it's about behavior. It's about patience. It's about values. It's about freedom. And ultimately, it's about how you choose to spend the limited time you've been given.
Perhaps that's the psychology of money nobody teaches.
Exactly. And perhaps it's the lesson that matters most.
Thank you for spending your time with us. See you next time.
See you next time.